Welcome, dear listeners, to the Speak and Flow podcast, where we dive into unique experiences to help you and your team unlock the power of their voice, achieve maximum potential and flow. Today, I have an amazing leader, Jeffrey Nott. He is the founder of Altus Business Solutions. He's known as the business co-pilot and also the author of 1 Week, 1 Thing. Welcome, Jeffrey.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I'm so glad you're here. Can you tell us about I love it, business co-pilot? What does that mean?
Well, what it means is when I work, the businesses I work with, I can go in and I can run the business. In fact, sometimes I want to say, well, you go home, I'll fix the business, but then you'll come back and mess it up, right? But as a business co-pilot, yeah, again, I can fly the plane, but no, you're supposed to fly the plane. I'm the coach to help you become a better pilot, so you don't crash the plane. We want the plane to fly higher and better, and make more money for yourself too.
Exactly. So you want them to succeed, and a part of them succeeding is to help them to help themselves.
Correct.
That co-pilot for them.
Yeah.
And what kind of businesses do you normally serve?
So I specialize in the B2B, B2C service industries. So one of my main verticals, because I was in the service station business for the first half of my life, is the automotive world. But I've worked with the landscape contractor, I've worked with the electrician, the commercial cleaning company, the the home remodelers. I've done, just you name it, many of the small businesses. I've even branched out and had some fun with the coffee roaster one time.
Nice.
It was the fun business to work with. But the service industries, the people, they work hard. They're usually very good at what they do. It's just that nobody's been giving them a business education.
Right. I mean, it's so true.
Yeah. And there's no small business class you can go to.
Right.
It's challenging. So that's where I step in and help them build that business, get the foundation in place. Let's work on the business and not in it.
Right. Right. I mean, because they're in the fields. They're doing their craft, they're in their trade, and they're highly sufficient at that. And there's no business class, like you said, and building a team is not taught. And so but yet these businesses are highly team oriented, and they rely on each team member. And so can you tell me, I'm interested in that 1 week, 1 thing. I mean, as a trade, as a business owner, there's more than enough that is on my plate. So can you tell me a time when you went into a business and found that they're doing so much, and what was that like?
Well, every business owner does a lot of things, and and mostly they're trying to work on getting better at what they do. They'll go to school to learn how to fix cars better, or build a better house, or be a better electrician, right? They do those kind of things, but they don't sit down and then go to a class somewhere and, okay, how do I budget? How do I market? How do I even hire and fire and do those kind of things? They don't know. So they might bring in some other people to help them, but most of the time they're just kind of, okay, I'm going to throw an ad out there and hire people. And they hope somebody will apply, and they'll throw money at them. In fact, I had one client that was all she was doing was keep raising the wages for the team, expecting them to do more, and they didn't change anything. It was really sad. It was very sad. But the idea is the business owner doesn't know what to do. Even if he says, okay, great, I'm going to take 30 minutes a day and work on my business. That's part of what the success of the book is. You got to spend time away from working in the business, and you got to spend some time work on the business. And so that's part of the concept. But the next thing is, what do I do? So the book will take the business owner week by week on one thing each week, such as we're going to work on, well, what are we going to build out our team? How are we going to build out the team? First of all, who should I have? Where should I put people? So we do have an organizational chart. Most business owners don't know what that is. You figure out, you put the chart together, you figure out the roles for each person and what they're supposed to do, and then you put people in place for that. Most business owners have no clue. And that makes a huge difference when you're trying to hire somebody. You hire people for the job, not hire people and then make a job for them, because then you're constantly changing. When you change that person, oh, we have a different person, can't do the job. But the idea is just work on one thing this week.
Well, what is happening? What is the impact that is happening when they're doing so much?
Well, let me give you a story here. So one of my I knew this gentleman in town. I used to sell automotive software programs as part of what I did, and he was a client.
Mhm.
And so when I first started coaching, I went and visited him and I said, "How are things doing, Bob?" And he said, "Well, can you help me with something?"
Mhm.
I said, "What is that?" Now the guy ran a great business. People loved him, was amazing. But he says, "Well, I got this problem." He shows me his letter from the bank, calling the note on his business. He says, "I get these about every 3 months." I said, "Why?" He says, "Because I haven't been able to pay my mortgage on time." Really? So I said, "How long's it been going on?" "Well, it's been getting tougher and tougher. I bought the building 5 years ago, and it's just gotten tougher and tougher to pay the bill."
Mhm.
And so I started looking at his P&L, looked at what his marketing was, how much he was charging. I said, "By the way, when was the last time you raised your rates?" "The day I bought the building." He hadn't raised his rates in 5 years. And he was
Wow.
about 30 to 40% below the market. And I said, "Here's your problem right there. You're working you're working for the customer and for the bank and not yourself.
Mhm.
Let's slowly raise the rates." Now, most people
Mhm.
hate to raise their prices to the customer. I'm going to lose business.
Mhm.
You can raise your prices 30% and you only lose at most 20% of your business, but you'll more than make up for it. But anyway, so over the next 30 days, we slowly raised the rate to come into to alignment with most of the other businesses in the area. And he started paying his mortgage.
So are you saying that you find that most businesses are so narrowly focused on one thing, whether it's a technical aspect or whether it's the customer aspect, they lose focus or they're not even aware of or hide or avoid the rest of the things?
Right. Well, again, so the thing is, when I started, in the service station business myself, if I was
Hmm.
short on money, what did I do? "Hi, honey,
Right,
listen, I'm $20,000 short in the checking account this month. I'm going to be
right,
working 100 hours this week to get caught
right,
up." And
right,
you can do that to a certain point, but at one
right,
point, you're gonna kill yourself, or you
right.
can't work enough hours. There's only so many hours in a day, and you're
Hmm.
limited production by that. So the thing is, you got to find out why. Most
Hmm.
business owners don't know how to read a profit and loss statement. They don't
Hmm.
even know what their goals are as far as, okay, what am I supposed to make? It's just put more money and more effort in and put more money in the checking account if I can.
Hmm. Hmm.
It doesn't work. You run out of time.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so that's part of the thing I did with this one client was, let's get out the books. Let's teach you what you're supposed to look for, and how to apply that on a day-to-day. What's your goal? In fact, I remember when I was struggling with that $20,000 in the hole, my father-in-law said, "Why don't you talk to this other guy who runs a pretty successful shop?" And he ran a body shop, but he was still the same kind of thing. And so he asked me, first thing he asked me, he says, "Do you know your break-even number?" I said, "What?" I don't know. He says, "You got to know how much you need to make every day to pay your bills."
Right,
So I went
right,
back and said, "Okay, now I have a goal, something I'd never been taught."
right.
And it's that situation trying to get education. So that's part of the whole thing about the book too is, okay, I can tell you what you're supposed to work on your marketing budget, but how and why. So the book talks a little bit about that. In fact, a good friend of
Mm.
mine read the book. He's a solopreneur, but he said,
Hmm.
this is like business economics 101. Simple,
Hmm.
simple stuff. And of
Hmm.
course, part of that also recommend someone find some mentors or a coach, somebody that can help them accelerate that process and know what to look for and
Hmm.
what to work on each week. And that's where I've had my greatest success is helping people get
Uh,
focused on the one area initially
right,
to get that
right.
fixed. That's going to increase the cash flow or retain the employees or bring in the right
Okay.
customers.
Got it, got it. Because most of these entrepreneurs, or what if you're not an entrepreneur, let's just say they're a corporate leader, they're focused so much on the one project or trying to make money. And because that is usually, I mean, there's high risk in there if you don't achieve those goals. At the
Right,
same time, if we negate or avoid some of these really important ones, such as paying your rent
right.
or increasing or
Yeah,
reducing some places or other areas, then we can lose out, or we can also damage and have more risk in there if it keeps compiling. So
right,
your thing is you go in and you look at to see out of all these other areas which one you focus on one thing a week.
right. Right. And it was funny. It doesn't matter if you're a big company or a little company.
Right.
You can still run into
Right.
the same problems. In fact,
Right.
I won't go into the details. I was actually in a jury selection thing one time, and one of the what could have been fellow juror, his turn was up, and he's answering some questions, and the attorney was saying, "You seem really agitated about being here." He said, "Well, I'm agitated because nobody wants to be here, right? But we're doing our civic duty. But I've got 4,000 people back at my manufacturing plant, and I need to be there." And I thought, here's a guy with 1,000 employees, and he's got.
Right.
I wanted to talk to him, but he got away before I got a chance to chat with him. So it's
Right.
every company has, and founders, CEOs have those kind of drawbacks. They get focused in the wrong area, and if they do that, they're not focusing on the other areas that are more important. In fact, that's the other thing is if you have to work in your business every day, you don't have a business, you have a job. And that's the other challenge with most business owners is if they try to sell the business someday and it can't work without them, again, it's hard to sell that. We don't have much to sell other than maybe some inventory and maybe some IP, but you have to have a business that runs without itself. Without the the CEO.
Without the owner. Right. Yeah. And what is one of the case study where you've seen huge success?
Well, one of the things is understanding the numbers. That's another chapter. Know your KPIs. And pretty big company. They were already doing about 2.5 million in revenue, and they didn't know what the number should have been. All the different, what's the gross profit they should be making on labor? What's the gross profit they should be making on the parts? What's the efficiency of the team? And so in the process, we're able to push his business over 3 million last year because we enhanced, and it's a small stuff because he's a big, he's doing a lot of business. If you get a 5% increase in your profit margin on 3 million, that's a lot of money. And so actually I was able to get a 10% improvement in many areas. So that's been my success there. And it's not just that. There's other companies have done the same thing. We just put one extra service in place at one location, and we grew their business 36% already this year. And it's in small stuff. I always tell people it's the difference between success and failure is about that much. It really is not much. It's the little things you do or don't do that makes the difference.
Right. Wow, that is powerful because we are often thinking we need to do so many things, big things in order to be successful. But it's just a small little percentage that can make the biggest difference.
Exactly.
Yeah, but the right things, like you mentioned, the right
things
that make the big impact. Yeah, has a domino effect.
Yep. And that's the thing that most business owners don't see. Because we can't see the forest for the trees because we're in the forest.
Correct.
We're part of it.
Correct.
Stepping aside, and that's where I come in and look at their business and say, first of all, where do you want to grow it? That's the other part of it. Do you have good goals in mind? Which most people, again, I'm trying to make as much money as possible. That's nice, but why not set some goals and then figure out how to make that?
Exactly. And work away at it, right? Like do a little bit. And what I've been encouraging too is and finding high value in is having big goal, like a vision that is so big that you would never even think about that's possible.
Right.
And then applying this concept, I think, just 1 week a thing, 1 week, 1 week, one thing to this big goal. Right. A day vision. Some people might call it the vision that you feel like you may not ever get. But if you do 1 week, one thing, who knows?
Yeah. And it's the other
but the right thing. And then get the help that you need, like Jeffrey. Get Jeffrey's help. What were you going to say?
Well, and it's when you look at it in the small bites, the old adage of how to eat an elephant, one bite at a time.
Right.
It's less overwhelming. And
Yes.
one other thing, I'll give you a tip, something that I've discovered and I've now built into my goal setting workshops and working with my clients is we set an audacious goal, realistic goals, smart goals, all that. But at the same time is if you just say, okay, there it is, great. You have to build an action plan that goes with it, right? But the other thing is that we can put a goal saying, okay, I'd love to have $1 million in the bank next year, right? Okay, excellent. How do we go about doing that? But is that realistic? But even then, it seems so huge. But do we sit down and think, oh, what does done feel like? What would it be to have $1 million in the bank, knowing that, wow, I've got that. I can invest it. I can buy a new building. I can do lots of different things with it. But how does it feel? You have to look at that future and say, oh, because if you don't have experience, see, our brain is looking for the experience. We get that the endorphins and everything go with it. And when you feel that, it changes it versus just a number on a page.
Right. What do you see? What do you think that most people will feel? I mean, in your experience with your clients, do they feel excited? Do they feel nervous? Like, what is it?
When they're looking at the goal? Well,
yeah, that $1 million in the bank.
$1 million in the bank. And well, initially it's disbelief.
Yeah.
And in fact, one of my clients told me just recently, volunteered, we were having our weekly coaching call, and we got him over the $1 million mark the first year work with him, and he's growing from there. And he was telling me that, he says, if you told me we'd be where I am today, I would never have believed it. And he did. I'm not making him a millionaire yet, but it was wow, that was powerful. And he volunteered that, and so that's where it says we have to stop and really think about it. And there's disbelief, but you got to review that every day. What's my goal? How much income do I want? How many people do I want? How many? And it's not just our business goals; it's our personal goals. And people say, well, I don't know, I want to work on the business goals. No, let's work on your 3-year outcome statement for yourself first, and then the company later. And so why that? Because we want the company to fund your life. We don't want you to fund the company, right? The company comes second. You come first. And so, and we look at that every day, and then we also map out, okay, what are the key factors that are going to be something we can track and we can see that it's happening. And when you even get that glimpse, wow, with a little bit of difference, and that's usually my number one goal is to figure out what's the number one thing they need. Most of it's money. Most of the time it's money. And we say, wow, look at that. You got a 20% increase in the last 2 months with doing small stuff. Now, can you see that we're going to be able to put that money in the bank in 3 years? Makes it realistic. So part of that is, and of course, the business owner has to do the work. If they don't do the work, I like the phrase that I'm going to teach you where to find the gold and how to dig, but here's the shovel and you have to do the digging.
Right. Empower them to do the digging.
Yeah. But once they see it's happening, and that's the biggest thing, find the solutions and show them that it does work, and it creates that additional hope that, oh wow, there is light at the end of the tunnel. That's not a freight train coming at me, right?
Right. Especially if you can do one thing and keep it simple and then just chip away at it. And then you will be at the place that you want to be. Yeah. And look back and say, wow, I did it.
So
can't believe it.
Another thing that I like people to do is whenever some anchoring. Have you heard of the term anchoring? So when but also anchoring in that feeling. So whenever you win something, remember that you went, yes, oh yes.
Yes.
And your endorphins. Every time I do that, I'm getting my drugs on here, right? Give me the drugs. And so if you tick off that one thing you did last week, okay, hey, I got the HR handbook outlined. I'm gonna send it off to my HR manager, or the HR professional to get it done. And you think, wow, yes. And that
I
feeling
love that.
cements that. So now what do I want to do? I want more drugs. Give me some more drugs.
Yes. Give me more. Give me more. Your body feels it. Your body wants more because it's felt what it felt like to get something done.
Yeah.
And yes, to continue to feed your body and cement that into the experience. Because a lot of times we're like, oh, okay, let's on to another thing. Oh, that wasn't that big of a deal.
Right.
Or we dismiss it, right? And
Yeah.
so like to cement that into our bodies, our nervous system is so crucial, is so important. And in that way, you want to have more of it.
Right.
And you'll get more. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's, we're all addicted to, something. I used to think I was an adrenaline junkie because I was running like crazy. I loved it. It was great. When you're busy, but at the same time, you got to stop and get the right drugs. I need more endorphins to help me stay focused on getting things done.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And have that internal motivation because getting your endorphins, it's a little safer than
than other drugs, things. Right? Yeah.
Than other drugs, exactly.
Well, it's naturally occurring, and you can pump it up anytime you need, right? It doesn't, and it's legal and non-fattening.
Well, legal non-fattening. I love it. I love it. I mean, I can feel, I enjoy your energy and I enjoy your positivity, your productivity, and I really appreciate your sharing today. And so, Jeffrey, I'd like to ask you what I'll ask all my guests is that what is the one leadership golden takeaway that you want the audience to remember?
So when it comes to leadership, you can be the best leader you want to be, but if you get the wrong people on the bus, and in the book Good to Great, Jim Collins talks about that. All great companies have the right people on the company bus. And so if you don't, you have all sorts of issues with your team. And I'll add that no matter how good a leader you are, if you've got bad people on the bus, you need to fix that and get the right people, figure out what your own values are and find people with the same values, and they'll be the best people on the bus.
So you're saying to me, this, in spite of all the other things, if you're focused on a project or meeting with clients, don't forget to apply the 1 week, one thing concept to getting the right bus, creating the right bus,
right,
and the right values, and having clarity on your values so you can share that with the people and then attract and bring in the right people.
Right.
Because otherwise, if not, there's a lot of other.
And people are the number one thing that is a challenge for almost every business.
I love that. And communication.
Yeah, communication. But if you have the same, but if you have the same values, it
could be very easy.
Right. Because what your values are, your beliefs are going to be formed. And if your beliefs don't match, if you have different ideas on how to take care of the customer or how to do the job or whatever it might be, you have discordance in the business, and just makes your job as a business owner that much harder, even if you're the best leader on the planet.
Right. That is so true. That is very true.
And I think, as I mentioned this earlier, you can pay your people really, really well, but that doesn't, if they're not aligned with you and your values, you're going to have a problem all the time. It's money doesn't solve the problem. In fact, many people will leave a job that pays them well to go to a place where they get appreciated, they feel like they're part of a better team. Happens all the time.
Love that. So take the time to identify your values, create the bus that you want to create for people to get on.
Right. Put the right people on the bus.
Put the right people on the right bus. Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you so much for your time and energy. I enjoyed it. I took away so much. I took away the value of identifying the right thing, expanding my perspective, because a lot of times I'm so focused on what I do and what I'm needing to get done that oftentimes I will avoid other things that I don't want to look at, maybe procrastinate it. So, but just by picking out that one thing, priority, and then doing one component of it, I think that's valuable and so important. And then remembering that our people are the most important assets within the company, and valuing them and making sure that they feel heard and in alignment with with the company.
Yeah. Very
Thank
important.
you. And I trust that the audience also has taken away your nuggets, your golden nuggets, for you to thrive, whether you're in a work environment or whether you're running your own business. I highly recommend you reach out to Jeffrey for support if you're a small business and running too many things at once, and to have some guidance from Jeffrey. You'll have the link in the show notes. And Jeffrey, is there something you wanted to let them know on how to connect with you?
Well, two things. Well, a couple things. First of all, 1 Week, One Thing you can find it on Amazon, and it's on ebook or paperback. The other thing is, if you need to get a hold of me, you can find me on LinkedIn as well. I'm on Facebook, or you can just contact me directly. You can do Jeff@oneweekonething.com. That's easy to remember. Wonderful. That's for the book site.
Yes.
And the other thing is, if anybody wants to talk to me about that, want to sit down and talk business, I offer a 45-minute free business assessment if they want to go through and look at it, so we can find some money in their business or whatever it might be. No pressure. Just here you go, and even give them a nice little business summary and a plan they can take home and go to work with if they like.
Oh, nice.
So they just reach out to me, and happy to build some time for them.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for that beautiful gift. Thank you, Jeffrey. Hope you take advantage of that. And thank you, audience, for being here. And I'm your sister in flow, Melinda. Until I see you next time, may prosperity flow to you, through you, and onto others always. Take care. Bye, Jeffrey.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining the conversation today. Are you curious on how you measure up with your ability to speak in flow? Come grab my free self-assessment at https://speakinflow.com/assessment. And I'll see you on the other side.